everybody. Deb Tucker from Studio 180 Design. I'm here today. I'm going to talk to you in this video about making what we call Diamond Rax. Now, the Diamond Rax is basically a rectangle that has a diamond in the middle of it. When you see this shape, most people think about making or having to make this unit when they make storm at sea blocks. When you look at a storm at sea block, what you see basically are squares in the corner, a square in the middle that has a square inside of a square, and then you have these rectangles with the diamonds in them. This would be the simplest version of a storm at sea block if you saw it in any book or pattern or magazine. There are lots of other versions that you may see. If you take a minute to look online, you might see some storm at sea blocks that go a step further and actually take those blank corners and put squares on point inside of those. There are other ones that go even a little further, where the center has a square inside of a square inside of a square. And then if you've got a full-blown hurricane going on, what you're going to have are these type of blocks in the corner as well. But what you're going to notice is that no matter what type of storm at sea block you are going to make or quilt you're going to make, those diamond rectangles always stay the same. And so that's what we're going to deal with today. The Diamond Rax tool, like all of my tools, is designed to work with multiple sizes. It's designed so that you can make the shape bigger than it needs to be and then trim it down for high precision at the end. And I'm going to walk you through the steps of how the tool works. My tool, like all the other tools, the first thing you want to do is determine what size unit you want to make. The tool that I've developed, the Diamond Rax tool, actually does 5 different sizes, starting at 1 inch by 2 inch, and it goes all the way up to 5 inch by 10 inch. So you have choices. We're going to choose for our video today to work with the middle size, which is a 3 inch by 6 inch rectangle with the diamond in the middle. The first step in the process is going to be to cut the shapes that you need to build the block. For the diamond that goes in the middle, what you're going to do is you're going to be using the angled edge of the ruler. This angled edge of the ruler, when you look at this, what you're going to see is that there are a series of window templates here on the edges that are going to precisely cut that diamond shape. Along with that, you're going to see there's some information here that gives you a suggested strip size for you to be able to do that. So if I look down and find my 3 inch by 6 inch center diamond note on my ruler, it will say to start with strips that are 3 1/4 inches wide. Now those strips, all the strips that I have you cut, are slightly bigger than they need to be. So to get going, to cut those center diamonds, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to place my strips this way, and I'm going to cut from left to right. But what I'll do is take my strips that I've cut 3 1/4 inches, and then position the template guidelines on the ruler, lining up the bottom edge with the raw edge of the strip. Make sure that when I make the cut, this angle right here is going to be held within the strips. Hold that down tightly, cut up. Again, it's wider than it needs to be, so not only do you have to make the angled cut, you're also going to have to make the cut across the top edge. For that first center diamond, it doesn't look like a diamond yet. What I need to do is turn it around, rotate it 180 degrees, take the tool, and realign the edges. Now, the solid edges are the cut edges of that diamond. You'll notice that there are dash lines on that, guidelines on the ruler as well. The dash guidelines are your future sewing lines. So if you're doing anything with fussy cutting, you'll know exactly where your seams are going to go. But now you'll have a pair of diamonds that are precisely the right size with all the seam allowances included. After you've made that first cut, for all the subsequent cuts, you can just take that strip and work your way down with the template, lining up the bottom and the edge that you've already trimmed and making the next cut. Don't forget to cut across the top. It's wider, but you can see by what's left on the table here that it's not too much wider than what it needs to be. So when you're done cutting your pieces, you have diamonds then that are precision cut for the size unit that you decided that you would like to make. I do want to take just a minute to talk to you about using directional fabric. If you're going to use the window template here, one of the nice things about having a window template, a guide that you can see all your shapes, if you use stripes and you take the tool and put the tool on, oftentimes what I'll do is open the stripe up so that all my stripes go the same way, and I line up my guidelines, I'm going to be able to trim this and end up with a shape that looks like this, where the directions on the diamonds are the same as the directions on your stripe, but maybe that's not what you want. One of the benefits of having a window template is that you can use that directional fabric. You can lay it out on your cutting mat, determine that you want the yellow to be right in the middle, and line up your pieces and cut your diamonds so that all of your diamonds have that same look across the board. This is how I would put diamonds, maybe in one point or another, where the green's on one side and the purple's on the other, or you can arrange them so that you have diamonds there where your two purples bump together. But what I would try to avoid, which you probably would too, is having three of them going one way and one the other. Think about it. That's one of the things that you want to keep in mind. But window templates allow you to do some interesting things with those diamond centers. Now, once you've cut the diamond centers, the next step in the process is to cut the triangles that are going to be on those outside edges. Those side triangles are actually going to come from rectangles. And the size of those rectangles, if you look at this section of the tool, and you'll find the size that you're making, a 3 by 6 inch unit. The size of the rectangles that I suggest that you cut are listed right there on the ruler. You'll need, for each diamond, you are going to need 2 rectangles. And the 2 rectangles, before you cut them for the into the triangles, need to be placed so that they are either right side or wrong side together, because you need mirror image triangles in order to be able to make this happen. So you've looked at the ruler, determined the size of the rectangles, made sure that you have a pair of them and that they're aligned right or wrong sides together. The next step then is to look at your tool and see that there's a second window template there. There's a window template that fits right into the corner of your rectangle, so that when you cut, you are now going to have oversized side triangles to place onto your diamond. One pair will go on this side and one pair will go on this side. And this is what I do. After I've cut them, I go to my sewing machine and I set them out just like this. And you might be tempted to skip this step, but word to the wise, don't. It is way too easy to take these pieces and end up putting them on there like this, and you will most certainly not be happy with the results. So I take my pieces, once they're cut, the diamonds and the side triangles, to my sewing machine, set them up just like this, and then would position them 2 at a time and sew them on the edges. The one thing that I like to do when I do my sewing on these pieces, first of all, I like to sew with the diamond on top. That's my precision cut piece, so I want to make sure the diamond's on top. But the other thing that I want to do when I layer them and position them together is make the pointy end of the diamond be a little bit closer to that end of the triangle than this. Rather than splitting it or finding and seeing equal distance here and here, move that pointy end of the diamond very close to this. A little play here is going to make a world of difference. What I'm going to suggest to you is, once you've cut a couple of these, cut a couple of extras and do some stitching to determine, it doesn't have to be a big fuss, but you'll find that little bit of a nudge in that direction is going to give you more fabric on all the edges to trim down at the end. So I would put the diamond on top, make sure that the point is nudged up toward that end of the triangle, and take those pieces, stitching them together, the 2 opposite sides, again, stitching with the diamond on top. When I'm done with the stitching, I would go to my iron and I would press. I generally like to press the seams away from the diamond center. Once I've got those first 2 pieces pressed, come back, And again, take a minute to reposition those second triangles because you could still get one turned around, and you're not going to be happy if you do this. But lay them up, raw edge to raw edge. That's about the only thing you have to worry about doing on that. And again, kind of making small adjustments on those, on the positioning. Once they're stitched, go to the iron, set the seams, press them out in this direction. And what you're going to find is that you will have pieces now that are probably not as pretty as you would like, and that's okay. You see that how there's a bowing that goes on this one, they're not quite lined up, but it's okay. The benefit of the Diamond Rax tool is that you are now going to be able to take those slightly wonky units and trim them down to the perfect size for you to use in your project. We'll take this one that's got a kind of a little bit of a bow going on to it. To do the trimming, and I should talk about doing this right and left-handed. Right-handers, you'll set the piece up vertically like this so that you can line it up and you'll be able to trim this way. A left-hander would rotate the unit so that they could cut and line up the pieces and cut this way. Now, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to set it up like this. And what I'm looking at on the tool, I'm looking at the X's for the size of the shape that I'm making. I'm making a 3" by 6". So if I find the X that has 3 by 6, 3 by 6, and I follow it around, there are 4 X's and there's a dotted line. Those are the guidelines, and those are the X's that I am going to place directly on top of my seam lines for my trim. So I'm placing the X's here. Nope, so I'm going to nudge that one at the bottom just a little bit more, and I'm going to fiddle the one at the top just a little more. When I trim up and trim across, the corner is perfectly clean, very square, and the seams are exactly 1/4 inch from the edge. Lift the ruler, rotate the unit 180 degrees. When you go to do the second trim, what you'll do is you'll look at those same X's, but you are also going to pay attention to the 2 cleanup lines at the 3.5 by 6.5 inch measurement increment so that you know that your piece is now perfectly sized. The seams are all 1/4 inch from the edge, and when I go to sew, every single one of these is perfect. So it's as simple as that. And I want to encourage you, when you look at this shape, most of us do. We look at this and we think, yep, this is a great shape for making storm at sea. But think about this for other design play. You can take these shapes, these diamond rectangles, and you can place them edge to edge to edge to make a border that looks like this. You can also take these diamond shapes and think about putting them like this. Well, I've got a sample right over here. Let me show you this border that is made. This is the 4" by 8" size. Look how pretty that is. That would highlight any quilt that you make in those colors to have a border on that looks like this. Some of the other things you can do with this, if you look at the quilt behind me, you'll see that there are 4 of these shapes that surround a square in the middle, and that's what makes the block in this pattern that we call sea glass. I've got a couple other examples here that I'd like to show you for you to think about for future projects. This is the smallest size storm at sea block that we can make with our tool. These are made with the 1" by 2" increments and my little tiny 1" squares in the corners. This is one that's made from scraps, and instead of just a simple square that's in the middle, there's one of our 4" Lemoyne stars in the middle. I'm going to show you one other thing. This was recently published in Fons and Porter Quickly Quilting magazine, and this is actually a table runner project that was made from 2.5" strips. That's the suggested strip size that I make for my 2" by 4" Diamond Rax units. So I was able to get 7 Diamond Rax and 6 2.5" squares, and as simple as that, I've got a table runner. So think about adding the Diamond Rax tool to your toolbox. It's a great shape. I'm sure there's lots of creative things you can do with it. You can pick up that tool at any of your local quilt shops, or you can order it directly from us. And I hope you have lots of fun adding this great unit that we may have avoided in the past to your bag of tricks.